Hello there, Paul here, and this is the second of our re-release episodes where we dive back into the feed and figure out which episode we think you might have missed for one reason or another and re-release them so you can listen to them now without having to scroll through the rest of our stuff. This episode is the film Live, Die, Repeat, or, as it was called for some reason, Edge of Tomorrow. And the reason why it has two names is, well, your guess is as good as ours. It was originally released as Edge of Tomorrow, and then they changed it to Live, Die, Repeat, because I think not many people went to see it originally. Whatever. So, yes, I hope that you thoroughly enjoy listening to this older episode. If you want to go back and just listen to it without this intro, fair enough, I suppose. It's episode 39, so you can go straight to it there. And hopefully you enjoy listening to this about as much as we enjoyed recording it.
The BlokeBusters podcast is a proud member of the Pod Bros Network, where you can find us as well as other excellent podcasts such as Sarcasm City, Worst Millennials, and Late Night Gamers at podbros.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of the BlokeBusters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Welcome to episode 39 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Paul.
And today we're going to be discussing Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow. A film directed by Doug Liman, who I had to say...
Hooray, hooray.
Yes, hooray to that guy. I don't recognize the name, so not immediately apparent to me. But I'm sure we'll get into that.
I will enlighten you here. Well,
right.
Real quickly, what this film is a little bit about here. An officer finds himself caught in a time loop in a war with an alien race. His skills increase as he faces the same brutal combat scenarios, and his union with a special forces warrior gets him closer and closer to defeating the enemy.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I mean, roughly, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, these never encapsulate what it's entirely about, or nor
Well,
would you
sometimes
really
they do.
want them to, because
Yeah.
they're oftentimes spoilers if you say what it's really about.
Yes. True, but there are some things that do give away everything in the plot, and then there are some things that you hear and it's like, that's not what it's about at all. I don't know what's going on.
That's just a marketing tool to get you to your butt in the seat.
Alright, well, speaking of butts and seats, the budget for this one is $178 million, and as of, I believe, a couple of days ago, it had reached $322,750,000.
So they're in the clear.
Yes, they are fine now.
They made their money back. They can pay everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm sure they'll do the same on DVD, probably.
Oh my gosh, yeah. On demand, yeah. It's going to crush it on demand.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. So just to refresh your memory and any audience members, Doug Liman is like probably my favorite action director right now.
Okay.
The Bourne Identity, The Bourne Ultimatum,
Okay.
amazing action sequences, The Bourne Supremacy, Fair Game, going way back. I don't know, like there's the Knight Rider TV show,
Ooh,
the
Knight
new
Rider.
one,
Aw.
not the good one, yeah. Unfortunately,
Yes.
but good directing.
Right.
Yeah, but most notably the Bourne films. That's what most people know him for. And Jumper, let's kind of leave that out.
Yeah.
Jumper wasn't crazy about, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith I thought was a decent one.
That was a good action film, yeah.
Yeah, so he knows how to shoot an action sequence, and I think that was very apparent here. So
Yeah, definitely needed anyway.
yes. All right, so back to you, sir.
Well, let's see. Let's go into the cast then. The main two people we know. So Tom Cruise playing Major Will Cage. And I'm sure we'll talk about Cruise a little bit more in a minute, but just running through. Emily Blunt, Brian's favourite, as we know. Sergeant...
if Zoe's unavailable, yeah.
Sergeant Rita Vratatsky. Not going to say the middle name, even though I have it written down.
Ooh,
that is...
It's a spoiler, slightly.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, well, how long's the movie been out, Paul? I think we can say it.
Alright, yeah.
It's Rose.
Rose. Yeah. Which, jumping off quickly, I thought was going to come back at some point after she gave it away, and it doesn't. Like, it's just... I think it's just a thing of maybe she's close enough to the guy at this point.
Yeah.
even though she shouldn't really be any closer than the previous iterations. But again, we'll get into that. Bill Paxton, the wonderful Bill Paxton, as Master Sergeant Farrell.
Oh, yes.
Yes, a very good one. Actually, I thought harkened back to his character in Weird Science.
Oh my gosh, thank you. He was so much Chet in this. Yeah, he was just...
He was Chet grown up.
He was, Chet got forced into the military, which I could really see happening to Chet.
Yeah.
As having no other career alternatives.
I always thought that he was going to go into the armed forces in that film.
Well, if anyone could straighten him out, it'd be the U.S. military.
Very much a jarhead, that guy. And then, of course, Brendan Gleeson as General Brigham.
I love him.
Wonderful guy. I knew him best as Mad Eye Moody from the Harry Potter film.
I think I first became aware of him from Gangs of New York. That was like late 90s or whatever.
I'd need to rewatch that then. I don't remember.
One of the Klansmen in the opening of the film, and he's in it for a little while. Not to give any spoilers away what might happen to him. He retires. He goes on holiday, and he's never seen again.
Yes, he's gone to a farm. He's fine.
Yes, exactly. That's little Susie. He's on a farm and being taken care of very well. Who else do you got there?
I didn't have anyone else written down.
I just briefly wanted to mention Noah Taylor, because I know there are probably a lot of Thrones listeners. Noah Taylor plays Dr. Carter. He's, like Paul and I were discussing, he's one of those familiar faces. You can't really place him, but he's been in a lot of things as a little bit, a little side character. But he was, major spoiler for Thrones listeners if you aren't through season 3, he is the guy that cuts off Jaime Lannister's hand. And his sword hand.
Right, yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, not the other.
If you don't know Paul, that's like the best swordsman in the realm, pretty much. And he takes his hand off. So,
which is an interesting premise, that the best swordsman in the realm gets his hand cut off. I don't know the situation around it. I won't ask you for it. But it's just,
no. But he gets a very nice gilded steel hand in place. So,
of course.
Yes, there's always a silver lining or gold or gold-plated lining, whatever. All right.
And he was also, for those people that are still trying to do it, where the hell is he from? He was Mr. Bucket in the recent Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and for those really reaching, he was the tech guy from the 2 Lara Croft films.
Yes. That'll... For a few, you were like, that really English guy. Isn't he? Yeah. Well, at least he's doing a very affected English accent in the Lara Croft films, I believe.
Well, it depends who you're talking about now, because there was someone who is really English, who is the butler, who is played by an Englishman. Mm-hmm. So,
yes, I don't know Noah Taylor's actual country of origin, but I don't know if he's actually English or not. But
I have no idea. I was going to look into it and did not. So.
But then remembered I don't care.
Yes, pretty much.
All right, so I think that's pretty much our cast.
Yeah.
Then you got other people filled out by Cruise's combat team or whatever, but there are a lot of new faces or relatively unknowns.
Yeah, and I thought they did really well.
The big guy that gets killed every single time on the beach. Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, every single time except one.
Except one. He tries to save him.
Yeah. But that leads directly to Tom Cruise's death.
But when he realizes it doesn't matter, because the end game is to stop this from ever happening, so it doesn't matter if he dies then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Live in a world eventually where he doesn't die.
Yeah. So, I guess we should talk about the main premise of this, which is somewhat time
Groundhog
travel.
Day meets source code. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, so it is at some point in the first timeline, the Major is someone who is just advertising the fight.
Yes.
And he basically does that so that he doesn't have to fight himself.
Yeah, he is think of World War II, there were these guys that sold bonds, and they were really good at selling war bonds. And a lot of times those would be someone that did have combat experience, and then they'd pull them out and whatever. But just imagine no combat experience, just really good at selling himself and selling the war.
A marketing executive, basically.
Yeah, and just, the stripes on his arm just symbolic, pretty much.
I don't know how he managed to get to that rank with absolutely no battle stuff there. That's never really...
There has to be something, there has to be a bit of nepotism there. His father must have been somebody, or grandfather must have been somebody in, an old war. Yeah. That's the only way you're really getting ranked up without doing your time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
not really relevant.
No,
but.
so
anyway,
he's
this of
drafted,
course comes crashing in on him.
Yeah, he's sent to J Unit somewhere. He's been sent with something that says that he is a private that will try to impersonate an officer, and he is forced to be part of the first skirmish onto the French soil.
Well, could we backtrack just slightly and say how ridiculously idiotic it is to defy a general that tells you you're going into combat? And
True.
Where he could have maintained his rank and...
And at least...
And he's like, no, I'm not fighting. No. I'm a pussy. I can't do it. And he's like, that wasn't a question. Yeah. You don't piss off Brendan Gleeson, pretty much.
No, pretty much. Just don't do it. No matter what role he's in, don't do it.
Especially if he's ranked up. Why would he defy a general? I don't know. That was just... It really... I guess it was just really wanted to show his cowardice. His level of cowardice.
I would...
He's that afraid of combat and death that... He will tell a general to go fuck himself. I'm not going in there.
Oh, yeah, probably. I mean, he does say in the scene that the entire reason he took the job he's in was specifically so he would never have to see combat. Yeah. Because he just can't do combat, so...
Yeah. Ew, bloodzicky.
Faint in the sight of blood. Oh. He should have brought that up. Give himself a paper cut.
Yeah, you want this guy out there? No.
Yeah, just imagine Niles from Frasier on the battlefield. That would be this guy.
Also, I think horribly irresponsible of the general. I mean, why not just court-martial him at that point? Why send someone out there that's going to risk your other men's lives because he doesn't want to be in combat? He's not combat ready. Only through this time loophole thing does he become combat ready. Yeah. He has no skills. He doesn't even know how to operate the suit. Doesn't know how to take the safety off. Yeah. Why are you going to send that guy out there? That's just, I guess that's quicker and less costly than a court-martial is just to get him killed on the beach. But you risk him killing other people, getting other people killed.
Although, two things there. Number one, even given the fact that they don't necessarily want him walking around with the safety off, it's a bit irresponsible of everyone else not to tell him how to take the safety off, especially on the beach.
They're like, fuck you, new guy. Yeah. Figure it out.
Yeah, the Master Sergeant even gives one of the other people the order of you're taking care of the guy, even though he doesn't think it's going to be very long. Yeah. So, surely he would show him, okay, when someone is coming at you, turn the safety off. When they're not coming at you, turn it back on again. Get that going. But whatever. And then also... I don't understand this particular part of it because the idea was he was supposed to go on that beach. They didn't know that the army was coming, so there wasn't going to be any real resistance. But he was supposed to sort of report back. Did you see any form of audio or visual recording equipment anywhere on that beach?
No. I just assumed there's some kind of black box type device on the armor. I don't know.
Maybe.
I didn't worry about that too much. That didn't really bother me.
It was just one of those things that he was supposed to be reporting on this thing. This was supposed to be him going in, everyone seeing, oh, look how easy this is, coming back, and then doing this thing. Obviously, after the intimidation, he probably wasn't going to be coming back, but still, you were supposed to get that original, hey, look how well we did. And I guess they just didn't bother to think that through too much because obviously the plot of the film, they get there and these mimics, as they're known, already know they're coming, which isn't supposed to be possible. Which then, after seeing all the death and destruction and all that, you see this big mimic, blue, all the others are orange, you see this big blue mimic, and he ends up killing it. The blood goes on him, which disintegrates him, which they didn't play with at all. After that, it was just a weird little thing. And then he wakes up back at the barracks.
Yeah. So sleeping on the tarmac, whatever, getting kicked awake by the one sergeant or whatever.
So obviously, to start with, you have no idea exactly what happened. It's like, hey, he died, now he's back. What's the deal? And then, as it goes on, you come to find out that if you apparently kill the alpha, which is the blue one, and get its blood on you, that's very important, or the blood goes into your bloodstream, then the day will reset, and you will reset as well. Because if the alpha has killed the omega, this nice big plant-ish thingy, will reset the day, and...
Yes, because essentially the alpha's powers are imbued onto you, right?
You get given the alpha stuff
Yeah.
Which I also wasn't sure about this, because the idea is that they will then know what's going to happen. And the first couple of times it gets reset, it seems as if the mimics are acting differently to how they did before. And then every other time past that, they act exactly the same as they did before. So I'm not sure what happened there, because there was one point where you saw a mimic do something the first time, and then after he gets given the powers and the day resets, that mimic does something different the next time. And then after that, everything is exactly the same throughout the entire day. So I'm not sure.
I would need another viewing.
Yeah, it was something that I didn't even think about it, because I just thought, when I was watching it, it was like, oh, okay, clearly the day resets and they know about it, because you got that line from the people going in, what the hell, these guys aren't even supposed to know we're coming. And then when the day reset, I thought, okay, that's clearly their mechanism, so they must know. This must have happened several times before he ended up killing the Alpha in battle. And then when it happens again, it was like, okay, so they know what's happening, and then after that they didn't know what was happening. And I started thinking, hang on, like, surely the number of times that they get the car and the caravan and all that, and they keep doing that, surely the mimics would try and get them a different way if they do react differently, and then they didn't. So, but again, that was just something that hit me when I was watching it, and I'd need to rewatch it to make sure. Yeah, and obviously you didn't really think about it at the time.
No, didn't care. Yeah, not at all.
Fair enough. I guess you were trying not to think of this too much as a time travel film, or as
no.
Or as a time repeating.
Because I was
film.
trying to like it. But yeah, so essentially, you have every day starting off, with him on the tarmac. For the most part, but I did want to draw an obvious parallel back to Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray's character eventually tries to convince Rita, his love interest, what's happening, and of course comes off insane as you would, and eventually gets to a place where he can kind of convince her, but it doesn't really matter because the day resets. However, in this film, Tom Cruise has a little easier job of convincing, because this same thing has happened to the Emily Blunt character.
The reason
she had killed an alpha.
The reason she became known as the
Angel of Verdun.
The Angel of Verdun, managing, and you saw at the beginning of the film as well, Tom Cruise's character saying this one person was able to kill over 100 mimics on her first day of combat, and then you find out, well, that's because she was able to have the day reset each time.
She knew the exact locations of where they'd be and all that, Yeah,
so it was a nice change, I think, to have the character have someone else that's been through it.
So he just had a really quick shorthand, hey, what's happened to you is happening to me. And, and then really quickly he has to brief her, where are we in our training, and where, how much do you know, and
Although it never seemed to me that he actually says, this is where I am in the training. It just seems every single time he's back at the same spot, and then I guess he's just a little better each time. I did like a lot of times where you didn't know how long he'd been in the loop. Kind of the same as Groundhog Day, but even more so.
Like Groundhog Day, it's going to reset at like 6 a.m. or something every day. This, as long as he stays alive, I assumed, he still stays in... he's in a loop until he gets killed again.
He has to die, and she says at one point he has to die during the day. Like, during, I guess, a set time period, but it's not like they ever really test it. He ends up dying at certain points. I guess it's a little unclear, but there we go.
Yeah, because obviously all of that, getting into the van and getting into the helicopter and stuff, all that's going to take more than 24 hours. The beach and, getting off of the beach. And
there was one point where he does get to the area where supposedly the Omega is, and it isn't there, and he ends up dying to reset the day. And it's like, well, would it reset now? Like, would you go back to then, or would you go back to a little later than then? And I don't know. I always thought it would be interesting for him to come back mid-sentence to something like... Every single time. It's a little bit like... There's an episode of Stargate, SG-1, where two of the main characters are somehow given the ability to... The day will reset. And every time he comes back, the head guy, Jack O'Neill, comes back, he's in the middle of a conversation with someone else, who ends up by just saying, that's how I feel. What do you think? And halfway through the episode, he says to Teal, who's the other guy that goes back, so, you know what really bothers me? Every time I come back and have Daniel ask me my opinion on something, and I can't remember at all what he was talking about. every time he comes back, he's at the end of a conversation, he just does not remember. I think it would be kind of fun to have Tom Cruise come back one time, where he comes back halfway through being walked to the barracks, you know? Oh crap, where am I in this line?
Yeah, where am I in the dialogue? Yeah.
and then also it would show you there was a time limit. Like, say he'd stayed away after the sun went down and then died a little later, and he came back later. Like, oh no, now I have less time to do all this in.
I don't know. I think that would have gotten the main plot too muddled.
I suppose. I mean, it is an action film.
You gotta keep things tight. And I mean, at nearly 2 hours, you don't have room for more confusion. There's enough confusion going on. And I don't want to think, why is he at a different point of the day? How's he going to reconcile that?
Yeah, true. I suppose. All right, I'll give it that.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, so what did you want to talk about with
I just briefly wanted to talk about the editing of this film.
Okay.
The editor was James Herbert, which I looked into. It wasn't a name that struck me as familiar, and I looked into it, and the things he's done, I'm not very familiar with.
Right.
But I thought this film required superior editing, and I think he nailed it, because there is a lot of repetition, a lot of repeated scenes, and I think they're used perfectly. And then, as the days keep repeating, it's a much more condensed version of that. Getting back onto, it's a lot quicker trip to the action each time,
At least until he tries to change something.
Yeah,
Each time he tries to change something, it slows down.
But I just thought it was wonderfully edited.
It was good. Although I noticed, and it was both, I can see what you did there, but also, like, I kind of wish it was a little different, was every single time that he was shot by Rita, it was the exact same shot each time, even if he was in a slightly different position each time. Mm-hmm. You still saw same angle, same movement, same...
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was alright, it's just I think they used it 8 times. It was a little too much of the same. Like, maybe if they'd just filmed it 8 times and had her do it, do the same thing, but she would have done it slightly differently each time. But no, this was the same shot each single time.
I don't know. I did love that bit though, where he's like, "No, it's just a sprain, or it's just a broken knee." He's crawling away from her.
The trailer moment. No, I'm fine to. Oh, come on.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
Yeah,
but that's just what I wanted to bring up. I really thought the film flowed wonderfully.
It did. It was a good way of going about it. I also thought that there was one point where you got to see, for the first time, you got to see them when they got to the house, where they're searching through for stuff, and then you kind of think, oh wow, so this is them getting to it, they're trying to figure out what to do, and then you realize he's been here a lot.
Because he could just hop into that helicopter and fly. My landings are a bit rough, but I'm just taking off.
So he knows how to get the helicopter started, he knows where the keys are.
Yeah. And he's keeping that from
her because every single time he takes off, no matter what he does, she will die.
Yeah, and he doesn't want her to die.
And so it was a really good idea, I think, that she finally realized, hang on, we've been here before, why aren't we moving forward? And then starts to see why he doesn't want to move forward, which is the point where she gives out her middle name. Mm-hmm. And that is also the time where he goes and finds out that where they think the Alpha is, thanks to these visions, is absolutely not where they are.
Yeah, it's just been tricked by the Mimics or the Omega to project those visions.
I thought that was good. I was wondering as they were going through, like, okay, so they're getting these visions, and she said that she never found the Omega in her time, even though she was getting the visions. So I was thinking, well, is it really going to be there? Would the Omega be on the battlefield? And then obviously this next time it's in a dam or something somewhere, and then it wasn't there. So I wasn't shocked by the fact that the visions were false, but I was pleased that they weren't. Yeah. Because obviously most action films, they don't try and put too much of the bait and switch in there. It's mostly just action leading up to a big finale.
Yeah, you know where the train's heading the whole time. Like, we're going to face off with Hans Gruber. We know that's happening. There's no real bait and switch there in Die Hard, but it was nice.
And I was also going to say, I think Emily Blunt did really well in a film where she doesn't get much original dialogue. It is so much repetition, and then some nice singular scenes that then are completely pointless because they didn't happen, and then back to the repetition. So it's really a really nice thing to see is someone just being able to hold up not having that much dialogue that isn't like, how can I help you? What are you doing here? Who said you can talk to me?
And I will say, if anyone's unfamiliar, go watch The Adjustment Bureau, where she can really show her chops. I think it's a terrific, underrated film with Matt Damon.
That is the one...
There's this Adjustment Bureau that keeps your life on track according to the path that you're supposed to be on.
And the angels.
Yes, and it's a lot, it's a lot of themes of fate and do you have free will or choice,
Right,
but she just knocks it out in that movie.
I didn't realize.
And if you don't fall in love with her in that, something wrong with you, buddy.
I did not realize that was her. It's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah. Oh, she's been in tons of things, but to your point, she didn't have a lot, like you said, of original dialogue, but still, I think what made it important for her to be there. I didn't feel like it could have just been anyone. Insert actress here. Like, I didn't feel like that.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a good choice and very well acted by Miss Blunt.
Yes, to be blunt.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
I did want to bring up one little other issue I had. As I'm calling it, the multiverse problem.
Okay.
So, every time he dies, it's not like the universe just ends. That universe keeps on going, and with a dead Tom Cruise, right? Like, as I understand it, like, she kills him, so there are all of these universes where he has died, and they have failed, and the mimics win.
It depends on what rule they go with, because they didn't specify.
Because you're saying, like, when she shoots him, that world just disappears? Like,
the idea is the actual day, time and space, goes back to exactly where it was when he woke up, which means that everything that happened didn't happen. It's as if it was a dream,
and I couldn't reconcile myself with that. I had to assume there are these other universes carrying on,
and I wonder as well, something that has the ability to go back in time, is that going to be localized? Because if not, that is the single most powerful being in the entire universe, and there's no way it would ever die, especially since there can't just be one. Like, there's one on this planet. There's no way that the thing that is controlling the ability of these mimics to go back in time and win again, there is no way in hell you would put that on the planet.
Well, what is the constraints of this power? Is it, how long can you go back in time?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I kind of like to think it's almost bittersweet in that this is happening on this planet, and
because a day is a construct created by us. Yeah. A day is not existent. There's just time.
So at least on this planet, time is going backwards. But I like the idea of there being a spaceship somewhere in the galaxy just waiting for the signal that it's fine. So, and when they realize the day isn't resetting, let's send another one. Like, let's just do this again.
Yes, I think this is where we get into the area of reading too much.
Well, yeah. I really want to read the manga that this is based on, just so I can see maybe if they cover some of this. Or if they give a reason for the apparent only source of the power to be on the planet. Because they do state that
then we come to my point of all time travel films, is that you cannot completely explain what the hell's happening. Because you just have to have kind of a short-term, very concise explanation, and, okay, don't think about it any harder than that. This is what's happening, don't think about it any harder.
Well, I mean,
the day's resetting, okay? The day's resetting. That's what we're saying in the script.
It's one of those things that I think that when it comes to time travel film, those that just want the film to be self-contained and don't want to think about it too much can do that. Like in this one, it is, they won at the end. And then you can add the people that do enjoy time travel, that enjoy extrapolating from this stuff, to go, well, hang on, is that going to be the only race out there? Because I think they stated that these people clearly come to worlds and mine resources and then move on. So there has to be more out there, so why wouldn't more come, or things like that. So it'll be interesting to see if anything else comes out of it. And I almost want to go into like the forums and stuff for this, because there are going to be some fans that write fiction about what happens afterwards or what happened in between things. So it'll be kind of cool to see the response to this, even though it on the surface it just seemed to be an action film that, okay, so the day resets, carry on. There doesn't seem to be that much into it, but then if you really start focusing on it, you can come out with these things that I know you don't really like talking about.
Just because there's no result. There's just you're not going to get to a agreement, I think.
No, probably not. I mean, you're gonna have people that just don't like time travel, and then you're gonna have people that are perfectly willing to go with it. Now, I want to bring up the ending of the film.
Okay.
So, for those of you that really don't want it spoiled, just skip ahead a couple of minutes or so. So, he ends up where the Omega actually is, and pulls the pin on all of these grenades, and it ends up sinking down into the Omega, blowing it up, killing all the mimics. And then you see what I can only assume to be the DNA or something of the Omega wrapping around him, and then resetting back to when he was on the helicopter going to see the general at the beginning of the film. I have two problems with this.
Okay.
Number one, what actually caused the going back in time? Because based on everything we've seen, the Omega is what starts and detonates the process, but the Omega is dead. So how did he do it? I don't know what kicked the jump back.
Why didn't we just keep going on in that timeline?
Yeah,
what deviated that timeline off?
That was the thing. Why wasn't it
In the Back to the Future chalkboard of things,
Yeah,
why didn't
exactly.
that create a new chalk line?
Yeah,
Or
why
why
wasn't it just they're dead, but then you got to see the news of now all the mimics are dead?
Well, I think it has to do with that DNA thing. You said something.
Yeah,
Part of that transferred onto him, or something where
I guess. And
it was still going to reset.
maybe.
Director's
I don't
commentary,
get it.
please.
Yeah.
Explain this to us.
Yeah, it was something that I could kind of tell what they were doing the second it started to go around, and it was like, okay, it's going to reset one more time. But then I thought about it, and it was like, why is it resetting?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing in this world that you set up that states that something else can use the Omega's power other than the Omega. Because he is just a conduit for the power when it goes off, rather than he is using
Now,
it.
did I miss an Alpha being killed real close by, and like on the beach? Because at the end they're like, "Oh, don't kill the Alpha! Don't kill the Alpha!"
Well, I mean,
you can't kill that one because
I mean,
then we're just going to reset the day. And
But technically, they all died because the Omega did.
Yeah.
They all shriveled and died. So that would say that the Omega's power is no more because everything's dead.
so the Omega's power is no more. So the Omega never had any power, or maybe something along those lines.
Yeah, and I don't know, but it could be something where they could do a sequel and go into it. They're not going to, but
The Edge of Yesterday.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, The Edge of Yesterday. I like that. That's a good one. I like it. And the second thing that I have a problem with, again, going along the lines of him jumping back. Why did he jump back to there?
To that point, not like
And not waking up
with
on the
his
tarmac.
duffel.
Yeah, because it's not as if it was that important. The only thing is that he's now reinstated back to the rank he was at. So unless the idea is back to the status quo,
I guess. I mean, I think all bets are off because that day ended differently than the others. So there are no true roles of where he has to wake up.
I guess it's another one of those.
Come into consciousness. I don't know.
It seems another one of those. The film seemed to be working just fine with the rules set in place, and then at the end it's like, we need a happy ending. Screw it.
I'm sure. I think there is more than likely a rational explanation that's probably just escaping us right now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that technically it seemed to reset to the beginning of that day. I think it wasn't the day that they went to the beach. Maybe. But I think what happened was that last thing that happened the night that he ended up on the base, rather than the next day. So maybe that has something to do with it, but even so, even if it was you have a set amount of time to jump back, he still jumped back to the day before he goes to the beach, so all that happens is he jumped back, I would say, 3 or 4 hours earlier this time. It's I guess I just can't wrap my head around it.
Do they actually show him getting the blood transfusion?
Yes.
They actually show the blood, because I'm saying maybe that was a loophole. Maybe he didn't actually get the blood transfusion and he thought he did. and therefore he still maintains the power.
Well,
but they do show the transfusion happening.
The stuff was in his arm, and then you saw it was almost empty.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So that's theory shot. Okay.
I mean, technically, he didn't finish the blood transfusion, so
maybe there was still a remnant of the DNA in there.
Yeah, let him go a little further. I don't know.
So, what do you for some people like a couple friends of mine there that hate ambiguous endings? I mean, not so much in the part as they won the war, but now what will happen? What will happen? Because it ends with the scene where he sees Emily Rita, doing her little
doing the exact
mobility
same
exercise, doing the very entrapment sexy move under, where Catherine Zeta-Jones did under the wire, that whole thing, and then they just kind of look at each other, and he just kind of smiles. So what's going to happen? What's next? Write it.
Well, there are two things that could possibly happen at this point. Number one, he doesn't tell her everything that just happened, and he just goes on happy in the knowledge that she's still alive and that the mimics are dead. Number two, he tells her exactly what happened and hopes that they get to the same point again without the close combat fighting and getting through a situation which clearly seemed to be the catalyst for her opening up.
Yeah, because there's no...
The way she is before, she wouldn't open up to this guy until
and if you're thinking any kind of love story, that wouldn't be there without them going through this experience together.
Exactly. The only possible thing is that because he knows her middle name, she would be more likely to get to that point. But even so...
But you also... there are also other routes around this, like in Groundhog Day, where Rita comes to, you've done all of this for me. Oh, you took the time to learn my favorite ice cream, and all this stuff. So that shows you do care. Or another film, 50 First Dates, Drew Barrymore. And so where she, her memory resets every day. So essentially the same thing. Where he has to convince himself that, I'm your husband, this is your daughter, this is the tape, we love each other. So there is that route, I guess, where you can give me the benefit of the doubt. You do actually like me.
True, but...
Your middle name's Rose, you used to drink coffee with your father, blah, 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 and that's why you love coffee so much.
I would say there is a slight difference between Rita in Groundhog Day and Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates and Rita Vratansky.
Yeah.
As in, she is known as the Full Metal Bitch.
Yeah.
She's not that type of person.
Nickname, yeah. She's not, If you send her flowers, she's going to cram them down your throat.
Yeah, probably. I think the best that can happen is that he just goes on happy that she's still alive and maybe gets her under his command or something.
That's the euphemism we're using. You're going to get it under my command.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't see it... Short of a follow-up where you see 5 years down the line he's broken her finally and they actually end up in a relationship, I can't see anything overly happy going that way.
And for all those people, this wasn't meant to be a romance, so just back off. It's an action film. It doesn't always... I feel like movies like, we have to have the love interest, we have to have the happy ending.
Unfortunately, there needs to be drama with the love interest, and there has to be some sort of reconciliation.
Which I thought, going back to the film we've covered, Pacific Rim, touched on it perfectly. It doesn't end with them making out in the ocean. They just hug each other. They're it's just the word. Yeah,
we got through it.
Either way, we're friends for life, or we whatever it is. There's no implied. Well, they're definitely going to get married someday and have lots of babies. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, we're alive and we're through it. So,
and I think that touched on it perfectly. No more was needed.
Now that you say that, were you aware that there is going to be a Pacific Rim 2 in 16 or 17?
I figured.
Yeah, and looking forward to that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, do we have anything else to add on this before we get to rating?
I don't believe I do. Just double checking. Nope. Yep. Covered everything I was going to cover. So what about you?
Yep. That takes care of it for me.
All right. So who wants to do their rating first?
I guess I'll go right ahead.
All right.
Here. I don't want to qualify this. I'm sure you understand for obvious reasons as a time travel movie because it's not really a time travel movie. time is resetting.
I would say that the same way as you could call Groundhog Day a time travel movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not knowingly using a device to go back in time, unless you want to call that bullet to the head a device. I mean, I guess you could.
It's the catalyst.
Yes, exactly. But he's not hopping in an H.G. Wells time machine, and messing with the dials, or he's not getting in a DeLorean, Yeah,
it's not even up to him.
Yeah, or he's not jumping through some weird little cage in Looper, that has a weird door on it. And we're not going to show you what happens in here, but trust me, it works.
Yes.
Fuck you, Looper.
Oh, come on.
Good movie, but the time travel was bullshit.
All right.
But anyway, so not a time travel movie. I'm going with it from that aspect. Just a straightforward action film with some wonderful twists to it that I'm not used to seeing. Directed by my favorite action director right now.
Right.
I'm coming in at a solid -0.1. No, -0.3. -0.3.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I
absolutely
honestly
love
didn't
this
think it would
film.
be that high.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I misspoke when -0.1, but -0.3, probably falling to a -0.5 through time.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Because I'm still very much in love with this film. So, emotions in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Love this film.
I think one of the few times that you're going to give a rating higher than
than
me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, me not being the biggest Tom Cruise fan, he was not a draw for me in this, and I felt that he did all right, but you could have got a fair number of other people in to do his roles. So that I wasn't too fond of the smirkiness he got as he got more and more knowledgeable as they went on. He didn't get a bit too smug. But again, that's me. The action wasn't bad, but it seemed to focus more on the budding friendship, romance stuff between the two characters rather than the action, especially as the film went on. They seemed to get less and less actiony until the big finale at the end. So I could have done with less of that, just because I myself much rather prefer to see the action film and then delving more into the pseudoscience that they came out with for it. But again, that's me. And I thought it was a good film. Don't get me wrong; it was definitely a good film. But I didn't come away from it with too much invested in it. And I can honestly say I'd be perfectly fine not seeing it again. I mean, maybe if it comes on Netflix and me and Jamie will sit down and watch it. So I'm gonna go for, and it's gonna sound higher than I'm making it sound because. This is all. This is all
Hang on,
preference.
I'm gonna write it down real quick. Don't say it yet, Mark.
Okay, this is all preference. I can say within the film itself, short of Tom Cruise being in it, whatever. Like I don't have much to knock the film. I'm gonna go with a -2.
Oh, I've written a -2.5.
Yeah, I would say personally -2.5 or -3, but the film itself, again, can't knock it too much other than the real, just I guess Hail Mary at the end, where it's like we're just going to give you the happy ending you want. Like, so yeah, they for the most part they stayed within the universe that they created and the rules, and they didn't deviate too much from the actual action when he started to realize he couldn't change anything, which I liked. I liked that very quickly he realized he couldn't change it and then just gave up on that entirely. It's like, I'm going to see how far I can get. So, yeah, I mean, a -2 for, I would say, for those people that like action films and stuff, and obviously you would say much higher. But
yeah, I don't think it'd ever fall below like a -1 for me. I'm admittedly still, in the romance stage with this film, in the honeymoon phase, whatever it is, and I really appreciated that. This was kind of like you, I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise guy. I like him in certain roles,
right?
But as of late, I've really he's been kind of in action movies. I don't think I've really enjoyed him in an action film since Minority Report. Where I thought he was perfect for that. Oblivion. And
I was going to say, me and Jamie watched Oblivion a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of felt that he wasn't too dissimilar from that, at least to begin with. Like, his character was very...
But it was nice to, like, for me, like, every time you see a Tom Cruise action film, he's Mr. Cocky, Mr. Know-It-all, grins and dimples, and it was nice to see him be just a complete pussy at the beginning of this film. And just, you know, had to learn how to fight and not just know it.
I kind of wish that he still had that at the end. Like, not... Obviously, there's so much that will be taken away when he becomes more competent, but I still wish there was some of that somehow in there at the end, so that he wasn't just, I know everything now. But fair enough.
I think that's gonna do it for us.
I think so. So I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
See you guys.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Brian here with a quick lesson in theater etiquette. We don't need to hear your comments after every single trailer.